I've been a long-time lurker on Reddit and never thought I'd be the one writing a post like this. Yet here I am, grappling with a family conflict that's left me torn, questioning whether I'm being unfair or simply standing my ground. For privacy reasons, I'm using a throwaway account and changing names. For the past few months, I, a 32-year-old single mom, have been planning a very special celebration for my daughter Camila, who's turning 13 soon. It's not just any birthday, it's her first as a teenager, a milestone I've been dreaming of commemorating in a meaningful way. Knowing her fascination with Italy, a place she's been enchanted by for years, I decided to plan a week-long trip there. Camilla's eyes light up every time she talks about Italian art, food, and history. She's been begging to visit for as long as I can remember, and I've been quietly saving up to make this dream come true. Everything seemed to be coming together until my ex, Gustavo, threw a wrench into the plans. Ever since he found out about the trip, he's been pressuring me to include his stepdaughter, Laura, in our plans. At first, I thought it was just a passing suggestion, but his insistence has turned into a point of contention that I didn't anticipate. To give you some context, Gustavo and I separated not long after Camilla was born. The split was far from amicable. He cheated on me during my pregnancy. We lost touch for a while, but when he reached out a few years later, asking to be involved in Camilla's life, I agreed for her sake. Co-parenting was rocky at first, but we found a rhythm. Things got a bit more complicated when Gustavo married Melanie, a woman with a young daughter, Laura, from a previous relationship. I like Melanie. She's a kind, understanding woman who's done her best to keep the peace between all of us. Laura is sweet too, and she and Camilla get along well. They're not just stepsisters, they've become friends over time. The issue isn't with Melanie or Laura, it's with Gustavo. Since marrying Melanie, Gustavo has shifted much of his focus to Laura. At first, I tried to be empathetic. Laura was adjusting to having a new father figure in her life, and I understood that she needed attention and care to feel secure. But as time went on, it became glaringly obvious that Gustavo wasn't just balancing two families, he was neglecting one for the other. He started missing Camilla's important milestones, her school competitions, recitals, even her birthdays. His excuses were always the same. Laura had a dentist appointment, Laura needed a ride home from school, or he'd promised to take Laura to the movies. I can't count the number of times I've confronted him about this. His response is always dismissive, brushing off my concerns with comments like, "Laura needs a dad too," or worse, accusing me of being selfish for wanting him to prioritize his biological daughter. When I started planning the Italy trip, I made a deliberate decision to exclude Melanie and Laura. It wasn't out of malice. Laura doesn't even enjoy traveling, and Melanie was perfectly understanding about it. In fact, they both agreed not to come so that Gustavo could focus solely on Camila. I thought that for once he might put Camila first and make this trip about her. But Gustavo had other ideas. He's been relentless in pushing for Laura's inclusion, claiming it would be a great bonding experience for both girls. I stood my ground, explaining repeatedly that this trip was meant to be a special moment for Camila and her dad. Despite my reasoning, Gustavo wouldn't let it go. Last week, things came to a head when I asked him to confirm the dates for the trip. His response? "I'm not coming unless Laura is invited." That was the last straw. I told him that if his condition for coming was Laura's attendance, then he shouldn't bother coming at all. His reaction was predictably defensive. He argued, guilt-tripped, and eventually resorted to blowing up my phone with messages. I've ignored most of them because, frankly, I'm exhausted. Now, the fallout is spreading. Some of my friends have accused me of being a bitch for uninviting Gustavo entirely. My mom, while supportive of my decision to prioritize Camila, suggested that I might have been too harsh. My sister, on the other hand, agrees with me completely. This trip is about Camila, and if Gustavo can't prioritize her for 1 week, then maybe he shouldn't come at all. I'm torn. I don't want Camila to feel like her dad doesn't care enough to join us, but I also know how this will play out if I relent. Gustavo will spend the entire trip with Laura, just as he has in the past, leaving Camila feeling like an afterthought. I've seen it happen too many times to believe otherwise. Camila adores her dad, despite his shortcomings. She looks up to him and wants him to be part of this trip. But I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. Do I stand firm and risk her disappointment? Or do I cave and let her see, once again, that she isn't her father's priority? to address some common questions I've been getting. Is Gustavo Laura's biological dad? No. I've met Laura's father, and she looks just like him. Does Gustavo have ulterior motives with Laura? I don't think so. They share many interests, and I think he sees her as the ideal daughter he always wanted. Are Laura and Melanie okay with all this? Yes. They've actually tried to convince Gustavo to let it go. They don't want to be part of the drama, and neither do I. What does Camila want? She loves Laura and enjoys spending time with her, but this trip is about her and her dad. I'm planning to talk to her directly to get her input before making a final decision. And thank you to everyone who's offered advice and support. Your insights have been incredibly helpful. I'll update you after I've spoken with Camila. Update 1. Hello again, Reddit. I hadn't planned on posting an update, but with everything that's happened since my last post, and at Camila's request, I felt it was only fair to share how things unfolded. Tomorrow, we'll be boarding our flight to Italy, and Camila is beyond excited for her birthday trip. For those curious about how everything turned out, here's the full story. For anyone unfamiliar with the situation, my previous post outlined a complicated family conflict. I had planned a special trip to Italy for my daughter Camila's 13th birthday, something she had been dreaming of for years. However, my ex, Gustavo, insisted on bringing his stepdaughter Laura along, despite this being an opportunity for him to spend quality time with Camila, who often feels neglected by her father. His persistence sparked a cascade of events that revealed far more than I could have imagined, ultimately leading to Melanie, his wife, and Laura joining the trip, while Gustavo's true motivations came to light. After my last post, I sought advice from Camila's therapist on how to address the situation. He encouraged me to have an open and honest conversation with her, allowing her to express her feelings and make her own decisions about the trip. Following his guidance, I explained everything to Camila, including showing her the post, and made it clear that none of this was her fault. I apologized for making decisions without consulting her, and reassured her that her feelings would always be my priority. Camila took a few days to process everything. When she finally came to me with her thoughts, her clarity and maturity amazed me. She decided that she didn't want her father to join the trip, but was adamant about not cutting him off entirely. While I had my reservations, I respected her decision and assured her that I would support her no matter what. We also discussed family therapy, which she agreed to, and I've already scheduled sessions for next year. By the end of our talk, we shared a heartfelt moment, tears, hugs, and a comforting movie night watching Mamma Mia, thanks to the commenter who suggested it. Camila loved the film so much that we immediately watched the sequel and decided to rewatch it together at the end of our trip. After speaking with Camila, I reached out to Melanie to discuss Gustavo's behavior and showed her my original post, including comments that raised concerns about his relationship with Laura. Although I personally didn't suspect anything inappropriate, I wanted Melanie to have all the information. As Melanie read the post, she became visibly upset when she reached the part about Gustavo's infidelity during my pregnancy. Confused, she asked what I meant. I explained how I had discovered texts and pictures from other women on his phone, which led to our breakup. Melanie was stunned. Gustavo had told her that I had cheated on him, and that he initially distanced himself from Camila because he wasn't sure she was his daughter. Melanie was furious. She confronted Gustavo, and what followed was shocking. During their argument, Gustavo, possibly drunk, hit Melanie, leaving her with severe bruises. When Melanie called me in tears and asked if Laura could stay with us temporarily, I immediately agreed after checking with Camila. Melanie had no nearby family to turn to, and Laura's biological father was away for work as a pilot. When I arrived to pick up Laura, seeing Melanie's injuries left me speechless. Gustavo had never shown any violent tendencies during our relationship, so this behavior was completely unexpected and deeply disturbing. Melanie later revealed that Gustavo had been struggling with feelings of inadequacy, particularly regarding Laura's relationship with her biological father. A conversation with Gustavo's mother revealed another layer to his motivations. During a visit with Camila, which I allowed only under the condition that Gustavo wasn't present, she confided that Gustavo felt overshadowed by Melanie's ex-husband, who was more involved in Laura's life than he was. Gustavo had been using the trip to Italy as an opportunity to prove himself as a better father figure, a competition neither Melanie nor her ex had any interest in. This revelation left me furious. Gustavo's insistence on including Laura wasn't about her or Camila. It was about his ego. The realization that he was willing to manipulate and jeopardize his relationship with Camila for such a petty reason was infuriating. At this point, I've decided to cut contact with Gustavo and his mother until I can secure a legal custody agreement and child support. This process will take time, which I believe is for the best, as it will give Camila space to reflect on her relationship with her father. Meanwhile, Melanie has filed for divorce, and I've been helping her navigate the process. With everything that's happened, Camila invited Melanie and Laura to join us on the trip. My sister, who was initially coming, had to cancel due to childcare issues, so the group size remains the same. Our revised travel party now includes me, Camila, Melanie, Laura, and my mother. We're determined to make this trip a memorable and joyful experience for Camila, leaving the drama behind as we focus on celebrating her special day. Thank you to everyone who offered advice and support. Your insights helped me navigate an incredibly difficult situation, and I'm grateful for the kindness and understanding you've shown. Here's to a fresh start and a brighter chapter ahead, for me, Camila, and everyone involved. Update 2. As I sat down to reflect on everything that had happened, a mix of anger and helplessness surged within me. It's hard to understand how Gustavo's mother, someone who has spent a lifetime as a parent, could excuse her son's irresponsible and violent behavior. Not only does she enable him, but she also defends him against all criticism, despite the hurt he has caused those around him. I thought back to her behavior, and it reminded me of my friend's mother-in-law. She acted similarly toward her own son, someone who never admitted his mistakes. No matter what he did wrong, she always stood by his side, finding every possible excuse to justify his actions, even twisting the truth to the point where right and wrong became indistinguishable. She would argue that black was white and white was black, just to protect the son she blindly adored. As a mother, I can't imagine doing the same with Camila. If she makes a mistake, I will teach her to take responsibility. It's the only way for her to grow into a person who understands accountability and right from wrong. If she's right, I will defend her at all costs, without hesitation. But my role as her parent isn't just to love her. I want to raise a kind, independent individual capable of contributing positively to the world. I can't release a spoiled brat into society just because I lack the courage to discipline my child. I thought about Gustavo. If his mother had taught him to take responsibility early on, would things have turned out differently? Would he have become a real father? A man who doesn't run away from his responsibilities and faces his mistakes? Perhaps. But the truth is, it doesn't matter anymore. Gustavo chose his path, and now I must protect Camila from the consequences of his choices. As for Melanie, I see her as a courageous woman who decided to leave a toxic relationship to protect herself and her daughter. She deserves a new life, free from the shadow of Gustavo's selfish actions. Both she and I know that continuing to argue or trying to change him is a waste of time. Instead, we're focusing on creating a healthy environment for Laura and Camila, a place where they can grow up surrounded by love and support, not arguments and injustice. With each passing day, I realize more and more that keeping my distance from Gustavo is not only the right thing for me, but also for Camila. I've told her that if she wants to see her father in the future, I won't stop her. But that will only happen when I'm certain Gustavo has changed, when he can take responsibility and be the father Camila deserves. As I pack for our trip to Italy, I feel a sense of relief washing over me. This is a new beginning, not just for Camila, but also for me. This trip isn't just a birthday gift, it's an opportunity for us to create beautiful memories and for Camila to know she is loved and cherished. Most importantly, it's a reminder that no matter how tough things get, I will always fight for my child's happiness, with every ounce of strength I have. Update 3. The trip to Italy with Camila, Melanie, Laura, and my mom went smoother than I could have hoped. For a week, we explored beautiful cities, enjoyed incredible food, and created unforgettable memories. However, I couldn't stop thinking about what awaited us when we returned, specifically, the exposure of Gustavo's actions. Upon our return, everything turned chaotic. After much consideration, Melanie decided to report Gustavo's violent behavior to the police. The evidence included photographs of her injuries, along with a detailed account of his actions. The case was quickly investigated, and Gustavo was not only charged with domestic violence, but also ordered to stay away from Melanie and Laura. But that was only the tip of the iceberg. As the case became public, more information about Gustavo started to surface. One revelation was the enormous debts he had hidden. It turned out Gustavo had borrowed money from various people, including family and friends, under the pretense of investing in a business project. However, no one ever saw any results from these so-called investments. Instead, he used the money to maintain a lavish lifestyle designed to impress others, particularly to outshine Melanie's ex-husband. Worse still, a former colleague of Gustavo reached out to Melanie and me, revealing that Gustavo had been fired from his previous job for financial fraud. He had falsified financial reports to cover up his use of company funds for personal expenses. This not only cost him his job, but also placed him under legal investigation. As Gustavo's actions came to light, his mother continued to defend him, insisting that he was simply misunderstood and that everything he did was for the family. But this time, her words couldn't cover up the truth. People who had once supported Gustavo began turning away, realizing he wasn't just irresponsible, he was manipulative and deceitful. For me, the priority was protecting Camila from the consequences of Gustavo's choices. I spoke with my lawyer to ensure I had full custody of her. The court quickly agreed after reviewing evidence of Gustavo's absence and irresponsibility as a father. Camila, though still young, seemed to grasp the situation. When I explained everything to her, she wasn't surprised. Instead, she nodded softly. "I know, Mom," she said, her voice calm yet mature. "I don't want Dad to hurt anyone anymore, especially Melanie and Laura." Melanie didn't face her battles alone. With the help of her friends and me, she found a lawyer to ensure Gustavo had no further opportunities to harm her or Laura. My relationship with Melanie grew closer than ever. We both understood we shared the same goal, to protect our children from Gustavo's harmful influence. Eventually, as things began to settle down, I realized this wasn't just a story about Gustavo's actions being exposed. It was a story of resilience, solidarity, and choosing to move forward. Camila and I continued building our lives, embracing the freedom and peace we never thought we could achieve. And Melanie, with the support of her loved ones, found hope for a new future for herself and Laura, a future without Gustavo. We all understood that while we couldn't change the past, we could control how we faced it, and we chose to walk a path of courage, kindness, and love for ourselves and the children we cherished above all else. Update 4. A year later, our lives have completely transformed. The wounds of the past have slowly healed, and everyone in my family has found new paths filled with hope and peace. Camila has grown so much after everything we went through. She doesn't mention Gustavo much anymore, but I know she still keeps a place for him in her heart. A memory she will face on her own when she's ready. We've attended family therapy together, and Camila always says the thing she wants most is a life without arguments or sadness. I'm happy to see her becoming more confident, joyful, and eager for all the good things life has to offer. Melanie and Laura have also found peace after the divorce. Melanie started a new job at a nonprofit organization where she can use her skills and passion to help other women overcome domestic violence. Laura remains close to Camila, and the two girls often meet, building a beautiful friendship that nothing can break. Melanie and I have become close companions, supporting each other through challenges and sharing the little joys of life. As for Gustavo, I heard he moved to another city after losing custody and being distanced from his old circle. I no longer feel anger or resentment toward him. I simply hope he learns to face his mistakes and find a way to change, even if that may never happen. One afternoon, as we sat together in the small garden behind our house, Camila asked me an unexpected question. "Mom, do you regret doing all of that?" I smiled, looking into her clear, innocent eyes, and replied, "No, I don't regret it, because everything I did was to protect you, to make sure you could live a full, happy life without being hurt." Camila nodded and hugged me tightly. In that moment, I realized that everything had fallen into place. The years of pain, the struggles, and even the losses, all of it led to one thing, the peace we are enjoying now. Life isn't perfect, but it's beautiful when you let go of what doesn't belong to you and cherish what you have. For Camila, Melanie, Laura, and me, we've chosen to build a new kind of family. A family not based on blood, but on love, support, and kindness. And that, I think, is the happiest ending we could have hoped for.